Yo, what's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty. Join me on Patreon to get the complete version, the link is in the description. Pirate Strongest Father. 1 SF. Chapter 1 The Strongest Father. 1/210th. Chapter 1 The Strongest Father. Next. East Blue outside Shimotsuki village. In a wooden house by the sea, a man wearing a huxia tunic suit and short hair was sitting quietly on the only chair in the tree house. In front of him a young man with green hair was kneeling in front of him with an aggrieved face. Full of bruises. Lost again. He squinted at the green-haired kid standing in front of him with a bruised nose and a swollen face. The man with the curly hair, that is Lu Jie, asked, "Damn it, it's almost there." Hearing Lu Jie's words, the green-haired kid immediately clenched his fists in anger and said unwillingly, a little bit more and I can defeat Kuina. Hee, if I remember correctly you said the same thing yesterday. Lu Jie just smiled lightly and didn't take it seriously. At the same time there was a flash of light in Lu Jie's eyes and a string of information that only Lu Jie could see slowly appeared in Lu Jie's vision. Target. Roronoa Zoro. Age. 8 years old. Growth value. Level 0 82%. Tendency. The strongest swordsman in the world. Single quote. This is the secret that Lu Jie hides in his heart which no one in this world can know. That is, he is not a native human being in this world but a traverser from a world called Earth. Fortunately fate was kind to him. At the beginning of time travel Lu Jie awakened a special system and did not leave him in this strange world to fend for himself. The name of the system is the Strongest Father System. With this system Lu Jie can get a mysterious reward every time he adopts a child with heroic aptitude, and every time the child's subsequent growth value increases by 1 level Lu Jie can also get an additional reward. Along with the opening of the system there is also a special ability called Search. This special ability can only be used once a year and its role is to guide Lu Jie and find the orphan with hero qualifications closest to Lu Jie. In this way Lu Jie found Zoro, who was only 4 years old at the time and was orphaned in East Blue Shimotsuki village, who had just sent away his seriously ill mother last month. After a lot of trouble the stubborn Zoro was finally moved by Lu Jie and became Lu Jie's adopted son. This raising lasted for 4 full years. During this period Lu Jie once again used the search power, but every time the search target was too far away Lu Jie was beyond his reach, so he finally planned to concentrate on training Zoro to the first level before making other plans. And the way to increase the growth value is also very simple. According to the different tendencies of the target, increasing the target's occupation level can increase the target's growth value. For example, if Zoro hopes to become the strongest swordsman in the world, then the improvement of the realm of swordsmanship can drive the improvement of Zoro's growth stage. If the goal wants to become the best doctor in the world, then increasing the level of medical skills can also increase the growth value. In short, it is the process of helping them get closer to their dreams, and it is the way to increase their growth value. Fortunately, the mysterious reward given by the system when Lu Jie adopted Zoro was exactly the lifelong perception of swordsmanship of a 5th-tier master level swordsman, which is closely related to swordsmanship. This kendo comprehension includes all the understanding and experience of a former 5th-level kendo master. Lu Jie, who possessed this kind of kendo comprehension, can be said to be a 5th-level kendo master without hesitation. The only difference may be that Lu Jie doesn't have the formidable body of a real 5th-level swordsman master who has gone through thousands of tempers. However, it is more than enough to teach Zoro. Since Zoro was 6 years old, Lu Jie began to teach Zoro how to learn swordsmanship. Until now, in 2 years, Lu Jie has trained Zoro to be an apprentice swordsman not inferior to an adult. Only 18% of the growth value is missing and you can break through the first level and become a real swordsman. As long as you rely on this progress and practice hard, within a year Zoro will be able to successfully break through the last 18% bottleneck. At the age of a 9-year-old child he has reached the realm of kendo that 90% of people cannot achieve. Until the guy Zoro picked Yixin Dojo and was taught by Kuina from Yixin Dojo. Know why you keep failing? Lu Jie asked. Is my strength not strong enough? Zoro hesitated. Wrong, on the contrary, your strength is already terrifying. In this world there are probably not 10 people with such incredible strength at your age. Lu Jie shook his head. Then, why is that? Zoro was taken aback. Because of strength. Lu Dao said resolutely. Zoro, you have to know that a sword with no strength has no strength. The strength of a sword comes from strength, but it is not just strength. I want to become a sword with real strength. To have a good sword you must have a truly strong heart. And a strong heart is the key to all the strength of a swordsman. The voice fell. Lu Dao suddenly picked up a wooden chopstick on the table and then waved it lightly at the wooden table in front of him. There was a sound of shua. An imperceptible soft moan passed by. The next moment, under Zoro's unbelievably wide eyes, the solid wood table in front of Lu Dao was split into 2 by a chopstick. Although it is made of wood, the incision is smooth and it is faintly reflective like a surface. Chapter 2 Swordsmen are divided into 5 layers. 2/210ths. Chapter 2 Swordsmen are divided into 5 layers. Swordsmen in the world can be roughly divided into 5 levels. Nodding at the stunned Zoro, Lu Jie gently handed the chopsticks in front of Zoro and said slowly, although this is still far away for you, let you know the vastness of the sword in advance so that you know that in front of the entire sword what level do you belong to. The first level of kendo. We can call them real swordsmen. Unlike those who have no kendo experience or practice kendo as a hobby, these professional swordsmen have extremely solid basic swordsmanship skills. With strong Sheng Chang's strength. The one who stands above the swordsman is the existence called the swordsman. Compared with the swordsman who can be achieved by an individual as long as he works hard, becoming a swordsman requires considerable perseverance and even talent. Among 100 swordsmen maybe a swordsman can appear. A powerful swordsman even has the power to cut steel. In other words, the strength of a weak enemy is strong. I just used chopsticks to cut a wooden table and I used this level the power of. After that there are great swordsmen. You have to go through countless hardships and you can slash and leave the body with a wave of your hand. They can cut off incredible huge objects. Even cutting off mountains is no problem. Great swordsmen, they have mighty power, shock the strength of one side. As for the 4th level, it is already a level that only a very small number of great swordsmen can reach in this world. For the time being I call it the Supreme Swordsman, the strongest swordsman who can control the Supreme Sword. In front of a strong swordsman of this level even a great swordsman has no power to fight back. The last is, the strongest swordsman, the Grandmaster. Speaking of which, Lu Ji's voice sounded like a pause. Grandmaster. Zoro, who had already listened enthralled, hurriedly asked. That's right. His eyes were slightly closed. Lu Ji felt the sense of kendo hidden in the depths of his soul that seemed to be vaster than the entire universe. After a long time he opened his eyes and said, Grandmaster swordsmen at this level have formed their own unique system of swordsmanship. Their swordsmanship transcends all known swordsmanship. It points directly to the essence of swordsmanship, so much so that their swordsmanship is incompatible with ordinary swordsmen. Become a master and you can become the strongest swordsman in the world. No one knows the horror of a kendo master better than Lu Ji, who has the perception of a kendo master. At least in the world of pirates there will not be a swordsman stronger than a master of swordsmanship. Even the Eagle Eye Mahawk in Lu Ji's memory, who has been the world's #1 swordsman for 10 years, is probably just barely reaching the corner of the master, not even a half-step master superior. That is really an otherworldly realm. Although it is only one level higher than the Supreme Swordsman, the real difference in strength is just like the gap between martial arts and immortal cultivation. All kinds of unimaginable and unconstrained concepts of swordsmanship are simply beyond the imagination of normal people. Although Lu Ji's current physical strength is simply unable to display the strength of a kendo master, let alone the corresponding moves, but it does not prevent Lu Ji from intuitively feeling the indescribable power of a master swordsman. Zoro hardened his face. Then he asked seriously, can I become a master? I can do it, Lu Ji affirmed with an unquestionable voice. Hard work, talent, method, ambition, you have all the foundations to become a master of swordsmanship. As long as you don't give up swordsmanship and stick to swordsmanship, sooner or later you will be able to become the world's first sword master. Don't forget you are my child and I will personally teach you how to become stronger. So don't be discouraged by the momentary victory or defeat, frustrated. Surpassing powerful enemies, turning defeat into victory, and never being discouraged. This is the strong heart that a strong swordsman should have. I know. He clenched his fists. The revived Zoro immediately put aside the dissatisfaction with Kuina before and said to Lu Ji seriously. Dad, I will definitely become a master of swordsmanship. Become the strongest swordsman in the world. Chapter 3 Special Training. 3/210. Chapter 3 Special Training. That's it. The revived Zoro quickly adjusted his mentality and began to work hard to become stronger with the goal of being the strongest in the world. But the #1 in the world is not just as simple as talking about it. If you want to be a strong person, you first want to have a strong body and extreme training beyond what ordinary people can endure. Follow Zoro's progress. Lu Ji made a whole day's practice plan for Zoro, from the most basic physical exercise to swinging a knife and chopping and finally meditation. All are formulated according to the standards of adults. Because Lu Ji knows that Zoro possesses talents beyond ordinary people. Although Zoro is only 8 years old now, his physical potential has already far surpassed that of adults. The training intensity of normal people is a waste of Zoro's body with unlimited potential. As Zoro's adoptive father, even though he is not related by blood, Lu Ji is also eager for a son to become a dragon. Don't squeeze children too much, give them enough freedom and entertainment time. They are all idiots who stand up and talk sarcastically. Children are loose by nature and human nature is lazy. The first thing for parents is to restrain their children's bad nature. Cultivate their spirit of hard work since childhood so that they can stand out in the future society. Lu Ji has only one requirement for his children, that is to be strong, even stronger. Only those with the strongest talents are qualified to live safely in this dangerous world. The good news is that compared to the resistance of ordinary children to hard work, Zoro has the rare awareness of becoming stronger and the talent to go all out. Facing the training requirements set by Lu Ji, carrying 10 kilograms of weight and walking 20 kilometers on a mountain road in 3 hours, Zoro will force himself to complete it within 2.5 hours. Swinging a sword and slashing 1,000 times in an hour. Zoro will try his best to complete 1,000 times in less than 50 minutes. Then swing a score of 1,200 times. No matter what people are doing, they wish they could be lazy, but for those who really want to become stronger, what they yearn for is to surpass their own limits. Break through the established plan that Lu Ji made for him. After this kind of pleasure of constantly improving oneself, forget about fatigue and hard work, only the great joy of harvesting. Today's homework finished again. Dusk fell. Lu Ji returned home after a day's work, saw Zoro lying motionless on the wooden bed sweating profusely and asked. Ah, what kind of training? It's a piece of cake for me and I have practiced a lot. Zoro, who was obviously exhausted, bit his lip and said bravely. Oh, then I underestimated you. If that's the case, let's increase all homework by 50% tomorrow. Seeing this, Lu Ji not only did not discourage Zoro from being brave but increased Zoro's homework by 50% in one go. What What? Zoro was startled. What? Can't it be finished? Liu Jie asked lightly. Less. Don't look down on people. It's only 50%. Zoro unwilling to admit defeat bit the bullet and took it. Change the load to 15 kilograms. Liu Jie added. Quote. Zoro fell silent. Early the next morning before dawn Zoro had to support his sore body for a day of training. Because the training volume has increased by 50% and the load has increased by 5 kilograms. Don't underestimate the weight of 5 kilograms in this area. There is no feeling of weight bearing for a short time, but after a whole day, especially after a full day of high-intensity training for people whose physical exertion has reached the limit, this is a mere 5 kilograms. The weight of a kilogram is not much lighter than that of a mountain. Therefore, if you want to complete the training, you only have to squeeze out more time for training. Only in this way can we have enough time to complete the huge training plan. And compared to the hard-working Zoro, Liu Jie unceremoniously slept until the sun rose. Although he had already noticed Zoro's movements, as soon as Zoro got up he didn't say much. After sleeping for 8 hours according to his biological clock, Liu Jie started to get up and cook. It is impossible to expect that guy Zoro to cook. Although Zoro has an extremely powerful fighting talent, he is extremely careless about daily life such as eating and living. Well, in addition to grilling, the technology of Zoro grilling is still good. But eating that stuff for a long time is harmful to the body. Although Zoro has a special body and seems to have the characteristics of being invulnerable to all diseases, Liu Jie is a real ordinary person except for his swordsmanship. Made a hearty and nutritious breakfast. After Liu Jie casually told Zoro to remember to eat, he rode his bicycle to Kurian town, which is about 3 kilometers away from Shimotsuki village. Although Liu Jie is a man with a system. But the system obviously can't let Liu Jie eat and drink for free. In order to maintain the lives of the two, especially the daily eating needs of Zoro, a big eater, Liu Jie found a job in a newspaper office in the town. With the excellent diploma in his previous life, in just 3 years he got into the position of deputy editor-in-chief with a monthly salary of 300,000 berry. Coupled with his handsome appearance, temperament of 2 generations, and the accumulation of master-level kendo comprehension in the eyes of ordinary people, Liu Jie is simply a golden bachelor plus successful male god who exudes 30k golden light. If Zoro is not dragging the oil bottle, Liu Jie will never be short of women. Chapter 4 Must Defeat Her. 4/210. Chapter 4 Must Defeat Her. Afternoon. Teacher Liu Jie has worked hard. Thank you, Teacher Liu Jie. Editor-in-Chief Liu Jie, do you want to have a drink together tonight? When it was time to get off work, seniors and juniors from many newspaper offices extended invitations to Liu Jie one after another. No, I have to go back and make dinner for that guy Zoro, or else this guy is hungry and will lose his temper again. Liu Jie declined with a smile. Ah, Teacher Liu Jie is really a gentle father. With a father like you, Zoro will definitely become a great talent in the future. Everyone in the newspaper office flattered with emotion. Many women also showed inexplicable brilliance. I just don't know if they can still praise Liu Jie so much after they know how Liu Jie educated Zoro. I am afraid that the gentle father will become a vicious adoptive father in minutes. Right. Riding a bicycle back home. The first thing to bear the brunt is to see Zoro struggling with a big rock. There are traces of being dragged by boulders all over the front door of the wooden house, counting back and forth at least hundreds of meters away. The weight of this boulder is more than 400 kilograms. And it's an irregular square shape. In terms of Zoro's current strength, if he wants to pull the boulder, he can only barely drag the boulder with a sudden explosive force. After the explosive power subsided, it was impossible to shake the boulder with normal strength. Come on, there are still 200 meters left. Under Zoro's hateful gaze, he patted Zoro's head. Liu Jie stopped his bicycle with a smile, and while cooking he opened Zoro's message again. Target. Roranoa Zoro. Age. 8 years old. Growth value. Level 0, 89.27%. Tendency. The strongest swordsman in the world. Quote. In just 2 days has the growth value increased by 7.27%. Out of the corner of his eye he glanced at Zoro, who was still training hard outside the house. Liu Jie frowned, but he didn't look very happy. Too fast increase of growth value is not necessarily a good thing. In the previous training, Liu Jie also used some tricks to speed up Zoro's growth, but the result was that Zoro's foundation was unstable, so that he could not exert the strength of the corresponding growth value at all, and even affected Zoro's growth. The body produces damage and hidden wounds that are difficult to eradicate. Although Zoro's physique is different from ordinary people, some important taboos should not be neglected. How terrible the end of eagerness for success is, but there are countless bloody illusions in front of him. But now is not the time to stop. Thoughts were spinning in my heart. Liu Jie put the sea animal steak fried in the pan, which is said to have 10 times higher protein content and absorption rate than beef, and put it on a plate. The price of this sea animal steak is high, just 10 kilograms, and the price is as high as 20,000 berry. Even with Liu Jie's salary, there is only 1 day a week that he is willing to eat. However, the effect is outstanding, allowing Zoro to get sufficient nutrition to cope with the wear and tear on the body after high-intensity training. Having said that, the saying of 3 points for training and 7 points for eating is still very reliable. Just like Liu Jie, even if he didn't train much, he couldn't stand the horror of the high nutritional value of the food in One Piece world, and now Liu Jie's physical strength has already the foot is more than twice that of the first crossing. Although compared with the natives of Pirate World it is an average level. Zoro outside the door fell down from exhaustion countless times and then got up from the ground again after recovering his strength countless times to continue training. Zoro finally barely completed the training requirements when the treetops were on the moon and the insect frogs in the mountains and rivers rang out across the fields. He lay on his back on the ground and didn't get up for a long time. There was no way Liu Jie could only reheat the sea beast steak and then served it in front of Zoro. Although he was exhausted, Zoro immediately stood up forcibly in the face of delicious food and ate and drank wildly. It wasn't until he swallowed Liu Jie's remaining 9 kilograms of sea beast meat steak that Zoro burped in satisfaction. His monster-like body quickly converted the energy of the meat steak into physical strength, and within a few minutes Zoro regained his spirit. Today's training I also finished. Then he immediately showed off to Liu Jie without changing his mind. Yes, in the future follow this training intensity until you can complete all the training before the sun goes down. Liu Jie nodded, approving Zoro's hard work. After you achieve this, go to the Yixin dojo and challenge Kuina. Kuina, hear Kuina's name. Zoro's face immediately turned serious, and the blue-haired woman's countless times of humiliation to him appeared in his mind, and he was immediately annoyed. I will definitely defeat her. Chapter 5 Inner Strength. 5200 tenths. Chapter 5 Inner Strength. Perhaps there was an incentive to challenge Kuina. For the next month Zoro squeezed his body like crazy, continuously shortened the time to complete heavy training at an amazing speed. At the same time Zoro's growth value is also increasing rapidly, from 89.27% to 90%, 90.26%, 90.98%. Although repeated training in the later stage will improve Zoro's growth value less and less, but with Zoro's countless breakthroughs beyond his own limit, Zoro's growth value will finally reach the goal of ending the training before sunset. An astonishing 97.91%, infinitely close to 98%. Roronoa Zoro. Even Liu Jie, who single-handedly raised Zoro, can't help feeling that this guy is a monster. He doesn't have the halo of the protagonist like Luffy, and the growth of his strength is completely incomprehensible. Every growth and strengthening of Zoro is a transcendence of his own limit. His strength is like the accumulation of bricks and stones quickly turning into an unattainable building at an astonishing speed. Every growth is so clearly visible. But, not enough. After finishing his day's work, Liu Jie quietly looked at the green-haired boy who sat in front of him with a resolute face. Although he was only 8 years old, his muscles were as sharp as knives and axes. He suddenly asked a question, the question he couldn't find the answer for a long time. Do you have a reason why you must become stronger? The reason why you must become stronger. Zoro froze. He has never thought about the reason to become stronger. He just likes to be stronger and the feeling of being stronger, but is this a reason? Zoro didn't know, and naturally he wouldn't have an answer in his heart. But this answer is very important for those who want to become a strong man. One Piece world is a spiritualistic anime world. In this kind of world the power of the mind far exceeds the talents of human beings. Only those who are extremely firm and strong in spirit and free from confusion can become truly strong. If you can't find a reason to become stronger, you will never be the strongest. It seems that this answer is too far away for you. Liu Jie's tone was flat and there was no disappointment on his face. The 8-year-old Zoro is just Zoro, not the pirate hunter, who can bear all the pain in the world for the captain he recognizes in the future and give up everything for his partners. Although no one as a father wants their children to sacrifice for others. For you now, becoming stronger is just a hobby, but sooner or later you will find that becoming stronger will be given a heavier responsibility. Only after you truly understand the meaning of becoming stronger you will become a real great swordsman. And before that, Zoro, you must at least find some inner strength, otherwise you will never be able to become a real swordsman and the strength in your sword will always be empty. The biggest difference between a formal swordsman and an amateur swordsman is the perfection of skills. But this kind of swordsman can only be regarded as the lowest level swordsman. At best they only have good sword skills. They belong to the type with empty strength but no strength. No difference. In the original book, Zoro found his first sustenance in Kuina, and after several years of hard work he became a real swordsman. When crossing East Blue, ordinary swordsmen are not Zoro's all-in-one enemy at all. But this sustenance can only be supported until Zoro becomes a swordsman at most. If you want to become stronger you must have a stronger desire and a more intense meaning. In order to push Zoro to a stronger path. So, protecting partners has become a source of strength for Zoro to go to a higher level. 2 years after the Summit War, a new Zoro is born. No matter who you play against, you can easily fight against anyone. Even against Admiral Fujitora you can fight evenly. This is in stark contrast to the 5 Emperors Luffy, whose combat power is high and low and needs to be temporarily activated to improve his strength. Although there is no shortage of reasons for future Zoro to become stronger. But, so far away. According to the progress of the original book, Liu Jie is so far away that he will not be able to see Zoro's demeanor until 13 years later. It was a magnificent and chaotic era, and the core node of the pirate world was turned upside down. Although Zoro is still an extremely eye-catching member of the era center compared with the endless monsters, Zoro is just one of them. Far from being unique, Zoro wants to gain the strength to match his ambition. Get a reason ahead of time. Chapter 6 Meditation and Events. 6200 tenths. Chapter 6 Meditation and Events. And Kuina for a good reason. All Liu Jie needs to do is to push this reason to a higher level. Give Zoro more meaning that he must become stronger. And before that, Liu Jie will not force Zoro to give an answer. He stared at Zoro, who was dazed and incomprehensible. Liu Jie didn't say much, just closed his eyes and began to guide Zoro to meditate. Meditation is one of the most important ways for a swordsman to summarize his own experience and improve the realm of kendo. Through meditation, swordsmen can relieve mental fatigue, summarize everything during training, and then achieve the effect of twice the result with half the effort. But not all swordsmen have the correct method of meditation. At least Zoro is still unable to calm down and meditate. Liu Jie needs to use his own sword intent to help Zoro enter the state of meditation. It's just that Zoro today took an exceptionally long time to enter the meditative state. Abandon your own distracting thoughts. Don't try to understand things that you can't understand now. You should understand. You will understand sooner or later. Liu Jie reminded. Zoro, who came to his senses, hastily closed his eyes and sat cross-legged. Soon, under Liu Jie's unspeakably quiet sword intent, Zoro gradually became immersed in meditation. Next morning, after Liu Jie finished preparing breakfast, he rode his bicycle and rushed to the newspaper office again. But Zoro didn't get up and practice as usual, because Zoro, who successfully met Liu Jie's training requirements today, has the permission to challenge Kuina, the daughter of the only kendo dojo in the village Yixin dojo master. A person like Zoro, who does not take revenge overnight, cannot control his desire to challenge. In the original book, Zoro challenged Kuina 2,000 times in a row in just 1 year. If it wasn't for Liu Jie's obstruction, the current Zoro would also challenge Kuina one after another. Now being blocked by Liu Jie for more than a month once allowed, how can Zoro control his fighting spirit? In his mind, it was just a fluke that Kuina was able to defeat him last time. This time he was not only prepared but also went through a month of hell training. The strength has skyrocketed by at least 20%. Victory over Kuina is simply a matter of course. As for the illusory things Liu Jie said about heart and reason, they have long been forgotten by the young and reckless Zoro. Anyway, Liu Jie said that there is no need to force himself to understand, and Zoro, who trusts Liu Jie unconditionally, is natural. Don't force yourself anymore. Compared with those big principles, Zoro still prefers to improve his own power intuitively and simply. That's it. As soon as Liu Jie's figure disappeared from sight, Zoro immediately picked up the bamboo knife that Liu Jie bought for him and went to Yixin dojo to kick the gym with his calf. On the other hand, the newspaper office. Big news. The red hair pirates are coming to East Blue. What did you say? The big pirate? Red hair, Shanks. Such a horrible guy. Why did he come to East Blue? Quote. Just stepped into the newspaper office. The continuous noise poured into Liu Jie's ears directly. Teacher Liu Jie, Senior Liu Jie. At the same time, everyone in the newspaper office who saw Liu Jie hurriedly saluted Liu Jie. Liu Jie also responded gently as usual, grabbed a newspaper intern and asked, "You just said that the red hair pirates entered East Blue, didn't you?" Yes, Mr. Liu Jie. This is the big news just received this morning," the intern replied, flattered. "Thank you," Liu Jie said. Then he sat directly in his office, and after a short wait the editor-in-chief of the newspaper rushed in and discussed with Liu Jie about temporarily changing the news on the main board of the newspaper. Although Liu Jie is an associate editor, it may be because education on Earth is more advanced. Liu Jie's ability to write essays and catch eyes is far superior to that of the editor-in-chief of Liu Jie's boss. Facing some difficult sections, the editor-in-chief of this newspaper I have habitually relied on Liu Jie as the lead writer. "Liu Jie, what do you think of red hair pirates?" the editor-in-chief asked. "It's unfathomable, especially the captain, the red-haired Shanks, who can't see through the depths." Liu Jie paused and then said, "Not to mention he also has an extremely smart deputy, Ben Beckman. Do you even suspect that there is someone smarter than Beckman among the pirates?" Ben Beckman is the character with the highest IQ selected by the original book so far. Even the unfathomable Marine General Staff Crane Sengoku, known as the resourceful general, and the wily Blackbeard gang cannot compare with Ben Beckman. And the redhead with this terrible left arm suddenly entered East Blue and was stationed in Windmill Village for a whole year. "Think carefully." Shaking his head and throwing all kinds of conjectures out of his mind, Liu Jie said expressionlessly, "But it is also because of this I believe they will not do anything unwise in East Blue. Redhead will leave East Blue for at most 1 year, and until then both Redhead and East Blue will live in peace. Both the government and Redhead will abide by the rules of absolute peace in East Blue." "Oh, do you think Redheads have the money to negotiate rules with the government?" the editor-in-chief asked in surprise. "That's right." Liu Jie nodded slightly. Chapter 7, Like a Wild Boar. 7/210. Chapter 7, Like a Wild Boar. On the same day, a report on the pirate, red-haired Shanks was published in the newspaper office. The article is very exciting, but it is a pity that the newspaper that Liu Jie works for is only a local tabloid office that radiates a country. No matter how wonderful the article and analysis are, it can only be seen by one country. As for the entire East Blue and even the entire the world is controlled by other newspaper leaders. But it doesn't matter after all. For Liu Jie, the newspaper office is just a temporary shelter, not what he pursues. After getting off work, Liu Jie went straight back to the wooden house in Shimotsuki village, but he didn't find Zoro. In this regard, Liu Jie was not surprised. Finally had the opportunity to challenge Kuina, and Zoro would not waste it easily. "Let's prepare dinner first." "I thought so in my heart." Liu Jie picked up the kitchen knife and waved it. Shua. A sharp knife light flashed past. Large pieces of sea king's meat were cut neatly like tofu and then quickly stacked into a pile on the other side of the chopping board under the control of a powerful force. At the same time, Seymour Jiji village, the mountain behind Yixin dojo. "Ha!" accompanied by a loud shout. The bamboo knife in the hands of the green-haired boy and the dark blue-haired girl collided fiercely. And the next moment a huge force exploded from the junction of the two bamboo knives. The strong momentum formed air waves and swept around. Even the grass below was blown by the strong wind and swayed in all directions. The faces of both the boy and the girl were flushed red after exerting too much force. Then after a period of stalemate the girl finally lost to the strange power of the green-haired boy and retreated uncontrollably. I won. The green-haired boy was overjoyed to see this, and without hesitation he picked up the bamboo knife that had been unused behind his back with one hand, and the posture of the one-sword style changed to the two-sword style in an instant. Then under the girl's shocked eyes he slashed at the girl's neck. Then, one knife flow instant, single quote. The dazzling light suddenly blooms on the hillside at dusk. Zoro, immersed in the joy of winning, had no time to react. In the next moment I saw a bamboo knife zooming in and out of my eyes. Zoom in and get bigger. Until, crack, sound. Zoro screamed suddenly and rolled on the ground, covering his face with a red mark from the bamboo knife. It's still too early for you to win against me. Panting heavily, seeing Zoro rolling back and forth on the ground, the girl put down the bamboo knife that just hit the front of Zoro in her hand, and the corners of her mouth slightly raised, forcing a relaxed look. Your swordsmanship is like a straight wild boar. If this is you, if your father taught you the way of swordsmanship, then sure enough your father can't compare with my father. What did you say? Zoro, whose face was burning and hurting, sat up angrily when he heard the words. Daddy is the most powerful swordsman. This time I failed because I was too careless. Next time I will definitely knock you down. Prove that me and my dad are the strongest. HMPH. Stop dreaming. He snorted disdainfully. The girl turned her head away so that Zoro could not see the tired look on her face. In my heart I was a little at a loss. Although this time she still won. But her victory this time was not glorious. She used the sword skills she stole from her father Koshiro, but even so she won by a bit of luck. The physical gap between men and women is more and more obvious under the comparison of Zoro, a freak. Every time they fight, Zoro's power will have a qualitative leap and Zoro's swordsmanship will become more and more fierce. That kind of powerful dominance without leaving room seems to have never thought of failure. Bring amazing pressure to girls. Countless times the girl was forced to give up her advantages in skills and could only confront her head-on. Although the girl called him a straightforward style of play like a wild boar. But sometimes why can't wild boars become beasts like ligers? P.S. Guaranteed 4 updates. 2000 flowers plus 1 update, 1000 evaluation plus 1 update, every 5 people tip plus 1 update. Hundreds of chapters have been saved in the past 10 days and the update is as stable as an old dog. Chapter 8 Sword Skills. 8/210. Chapter 8 Sword Skills. Previous. Next. Sitting at the dinner table, Liu Jie waited until the sun went down, and when the last afterglow of the setting sun was about to disappear, Zoro, who lowered his head and covered his face, just appeared in Liu Jie's sight evasively. I'm going to take a shower first. Zoro mumbled and turned around to rush into the room. We lost again. Liu Jie punctured it mercilessly. Damn, I was careless. Having been exposed, Zoro immediately stopped covering up, raised his bruised face and said angrily. Another excuse. Shaking his head, Liu Jie had no expression on his face. Failure is failure, even if it is a 1/10,000th accident. It can only prove that you are not strong enough. In a real battle, victory or defeat is equal to life and death, but there is no accident for you set up again. Speaking of which, Liu Jie changed the topic again. Go take a shower first and tell me after dinner why you lost today. In fact, Liu Jie was also a little curious about why Zoro lost. Although Zoro hasn't found his reason yet, under Liu Jie's painstaking cultivation Zoro's strength has far surpassed him at the same time in the original book. A growth value that is infinitely close to 98% of the zeroth order can explain everything. Theoretically speaking, even if Kuina is 3 years older than Zoro, it is unlikely that he will be stronger than Zoro, who is infinitely close to the strength of a formal swordsman at this time. If Zoro's chance of winning is 70%, then Kuina's chance of winning is at most only 30%. More than half an hour later, Zoro, who had taken a shower and had enough food and drinks, put down his big wrist, expressionlessly wiped off the oily rice grains from the corner of his mouth and said, her speed has suddenly increased. Suddenly faster. Yes, originally I had been hiding the ultimate move of the double sword style and she couldn't avoid it. But just when I was about to hit Kuina's speed suddenly became very fast, as if bursting out of power. The speed is much faster than normal. Zoro replied honestly, clenched his fists tightly, but a deep unwillingness appeared on his face again. Damn it. It's just a little bit close. I see. Liu Jie nodded clearly and said, it's very likely that she used sword skills. Sword skills. Through a series of use of body muscles, strength, energy, etc. to greatly enhance the power and speed of one's next attack is sword skill. Liu Jie said, Father, I want to learn sword skills too. Zoro said immediately after hearing that. People are different. Liu Jie shook his head. Sword skills are different from body skills. In addition to the operation of the body's own strength, the use of sword skills must also consider your own sword skills. Only in this way can you to truly release the power that sword skills should have. In this world, almost all swordsmen's sword skills belong to themselves. In other words, sword skills are not a skill that can be used universally. Then Kuina, forcibly using sword skills will cause great damage to the body. Liu Jie said, especially using sword skills that do not belong to you. It seems that the little guy Kuina has more desire to win than you. How come? Zoro was taken aback. Kuina is just an insignificant stepping stone on your growth path. Liu Jie's face was expressionless. I have already said that the victory or defeat between you is nothing at all. In the final analysis, Kuina is just a girl. It's just a child. As you grow older, the natural disadvantages of women's body structure will soon inevitably show up, but on the contrary, your strength and physical strength will become stronger and stronger. Now Kuina has begun to rely on sword skills are here to deal with you, but as the gap in your physical strength is getting bigger and bigger, even if Kuina uses sword skills she can't compete with your strength. Don't aim too high just for a mere girl. Before you have mastered the sword skills it is very easy to defeat Kuina. You just need to practice step by step for a month at most and you will be able to defeat Kuina with your physical strength alone. Kuina is easily defeated. After this you will become stronger and stronger and the distance between Kuina and you as a woman will only become farther and farther and it will never be able to match you again. Quote. He stared blankly at the indifferent Liu Jie in front of him. Zoro, who was as strong as a calf, clenched his fist involuntarily. In my heart there is no happy look. He wants to outmatch Kuina in swordsmanship with dignity, instead of relying on the physical gap between men and women to defeat opponents, as Liu Jie said. This kind of natural victory is not his victory at all. Chapter 8 Sword Skills. 9/210. Chapter 8 Sword Skills. Sitting at the dinner table, Liu Jie waited until the sun went down, and when the last afterglow of the setting sun was about to disappear, Zoro, who lowered his head and covered his face, just appeared in Liu Jie's sight evasively. I'm going to take a shower first. Zoro mumbled and turned around to rush into the room. We lost again. Liu Jie punctured it mercilessly. Damn, I was careless. Having been exposed, Zoro immediately stopped covering up, raised his bruised face and said angrily. Another excuse. Shaking his head, Liu Jie had no expression on his face. Failure is failure, even if it is a 1/10,000th accident. It can only prove that you are not strong enough. In a real battle, victory or defeat is equal to life and death, but there is no accident for you. Set up again. Speaking of which, Liu Jie changed the topic again. Go take a shower first and tell me after dinner why you lost today. In fact, Liu Jie was also a little curious about why Zoro lost. Although Zoro hasn't found his reason yet, under Liu Jie's painstaking cultivation Zoro's strength has far surpassed him at the same time in the original book. A growth value that is infinitely close to 98% of the zeroth order can explain everything. Theoretically speaking, even if Kuina is 3 years older than Zoro, it is unlikely that he will be stronger than Zoro, who is infinitely close to the strength of a formal swordsman at this time. If Zoro's chance of winning is 70%, then Kuina's chance of winning is at most only 30%. More than half an hour later, Zoro, who had taken a shower and had enough food and drinks, put down his big wrist, expressionlessly wiped off the oily rice grains from the corner of his mouth and said, her speed has suddenly increased. Suddenly faster. Yes, originally I had been hiding the ultimate move of the double sword style and she couldn't avoid it. But just when I was about to hit Kuina, Kuina's speed suddenly became very fast, as if bursting out of power. The speed is much faster than normal. Zoro replied honestly, clenched his fists tightly, but a deep unwillingness appeared on his face again. Damn it. It's just a little bit close. I see. Liu Jie nodded clearly and said, it's very likely that she used sword skills. Sword skills. Through a series of use of body muscles, strength, energy, etc. to greatly enhance the power and speed of one's next attack is sword skill. Liu Jie said, Father, I want to learn sword skills too. Zoro said immediately after hearing that. People are different. Liu Jie shook his head. Sword skills are different from body skills. In addition to the operation of the body's own strength, the use of sword skills must also consider your own sword skills. Only in this way can you to truly release the power that sword skills should have. In this world, almost all swordsmen's sword skills belong to themselves. In other words, sword skills are not a skill that can be used universally. Then Kuina, forcibly using sword skills will cause great damage to the body. Liu Jie said, especially using sword skills that do not belong to you. It seems that the little guy Kuina has more desire to win than you. How come? Zoro was taken aback. Kuina is just an insignificant stepping stone on your growth path. Liu Jie's face was expressionless. I have already said that the victory or defeat between you is nothing at all. In the final analysis, Kuina is just a girl. It's just a child. As you grow older, the natural disadvantages of women's body structure will soon inevitably show up, but on the contrary, your strength and physical strength will become stronger and stronger. Now Kuina has begun to rely on sword skills are here to deal with you, but as the gap in your physical strength is getting bigger and bigger, even if Kuina uses sword skills she can't compete with your strength. Don't aim too high just for a mere girl. Before you have mastered the sword skills it is very easy to defeat Kuina. You just need to practice step by step for a month at most and you will be able to defeat Kuina with your physical strength alone. Kuina is easily defeated. After this you will become stronger and stronger and the distance between Kuina and you as a woman will only become farther and farther and it will never be able to match you again. Quote. He stared blankly at the indifferent Liu Jie in front of him. Zoro, who was as strong as a calf, clenched his fist involuntarily. In my heart there is no happy look. He wants to outmatch Kuina in swordsmanship with dignity, instead of relying on the physical gap between men and women to defeat opponents, as Liu Jie said. This kind of natural victory is not his victory at all. Chapter 9 Real Sword Showdown. 10/210. Chapter 9 Real Sword Showdown. That night, Liu Jie, who closed his eyes and meditated, suddenly opened his eyes, looked out the window at Zoro, who was running towards the darkness with a long knife in his hand and the corners of his mouth involuntarily raised slightly. This knife is the only real knife Liu Jie has, and it is also one of the famous swords, 3rd generation ghost sword. This ominous knife, which should have fallen into the hands of the owner of the weapon shop in Logue Town, was acquired by Liu Jie a year ago in advance. With 100,000 berry, Liu Jie got this famous knife that should have been worth millions of berry. Although it is a demon sword, the sword's sensitivity to the swordsman is stronger than the swordsman's sensitivity to the sword. Liu Jie has the realm of swordsmanship at the master level of swordsmanship, and the demon sword dare not attack Liu Jie at all, but Zoro is naturally compatible with the fierce sword. It is the most suitable owner of the murderous knife. Therefore holding the demon knife will not present any danger to Liu Jie and Zoro. But whether it is dangerous to others is unknown. Go, the knife will help you find a reason. Looking at Zoro, who has completely disappeared into the night, Liu Jie closed his eyes again, breathing evenly. Seymour Jiji Village Yixin Dojo. Zoro found Kuina without any trouble. Because Kuina also didn't sleep, the battle with Zoro during the day made her feel a great sense of urgency. In order not to lose to Zoro in the next battle, Kuina has been training since she came back. People of Zoro, in order to win, Kuina has put in far more efforts than people imagined. So much so that I was still training secretly in the middle of the night. In the original work, Kuina even broke the shackles of gender and successfully gained power beyond men with a woman's body. If Liu Jie is Kuina's father, he will definitely train him carefully, but unfortunately Kuina's biological father is Koshiro and she has her own father, so she is destined to have no relationship with Liu Jie and it can only be used as a tool. Liu Jie is not a saint who can treat everyone equally, nor is he as broad-minded as Koshiro. For Liu Jie, the only person in this world who has fetters with him is his children. Other characters are all available tools. Even Kuina, whom he admires, is the same. To blame, only to blame fate. The east blue moon has always been so white and bright. Even if it is only half a moon, Zoro and Kuina can still see each other clearly at a relatively short distance, relying on the most primitive light source in the starry sky. My father said that women's bodies are inferior to men's. Is this true? Looking directly into Kuina's dark eyes, holding the demon sword hidden in the scabbard, Zoro asked Kuina loudly. Did you just know now? Looking at Zoro, who was staring at him excitedly. Although Kuina has always denied that women are inferior to men, but think of Zoro's leaping strength and endless terrifying physical strength. The pretended shell finally cracked and a deep sense of powerlessness and weakness subconsciously surfaced in my heart. Your father is right, not only your father but even my father thinks so. No matter how good I perform, no matter how hard I try to deny all of this, but the reality is that the physical gap between women and men is as wide as heaven and earth. With the development of the body of women, the sense of powerlessness is becoming clearer and clearer. I understand, I have understood it a long time ago. It's just that I have been unwilling to admit it. Clutching the chest that has begun to develop slightly, Kuina could no longer maintain her superficial indifference. 2 drops of unwilling tears fell down the corners of her eyes and said with hatred on her face, but I am very unwilling, very unwilling. Why are you a boy, Zoro? To be a woman. Women cannot be the strongest. Quote. He stared blankly at Kuina, who was completely different from before. Zoro couldn't imagine that the powerful female swordsman Kuina would reveal such a fragile side. But that's the reality. In the face of desperate reality, no matter how strong a person is, he will be defeated. He even has no reason to comfort Kuina. After all, he stands on the standpoint of a man. How can he be qualified to understand that he is destined not to be the strongest? Pain. Not because of talent, not because of hard work, but because of the ridiculous difference between men and women. He missed his dream. Let's fight. He raised the demon knife in his hand. After being silent for a long time, Zoro said loudly to Kuina, I have been working so hard to surpass you. Do you want to use this reason to deny me when I beat you? It's as if I didn't rely on my own strength to win. Don't I look like an idiot when I work so hard for special training? Zoro. Kuina froze. Let's decide the victory with a real sword. Demon Toru held high the demon sword. Zoro stared at Kuina intently and said seriously, promise me. One day either I or you must become the strongest swordsman in the world. If you lose in my hands, even if you bet your life, I will definitely become the strongest in the world with your share. Zoro. He stared blankly at the green-haired boy with a determined face in front of him. After a long time, Kuina just came back to her senses. She wiped away the tears from the corners of her eyes vigorously, then nodded heavily to Zoro. Another fight just like that. It is different from any previous sparring. Kuina and Zoro all fight for real. Any mistake means that one of the two will suffer casualties. This is my father's knife. It's called He Dao Yuan. He held the simple-looking long knife in his hand. Kuina looked at Zoro in front of him seriously and said, one of the 21 workers in the big business. The blade is 88 centimeters long. The flowerless curved blade. It's also my father's knife. Zoro also seriously raised the black and red demon knife in his hand. Different from the words of Wadaichi, the appearance of Yao Dao Gido is full of tension as a famous sword. The black-red scabbard wraps the jet-black blade, and the faintly exposed blade pattern is dense, cold and radiant. I don't know its name and my father never told me, but it's definitely a good knife. Zoro said so. In the fight against his father he will never fall into a disadvantage. That's it. Under the soft light of the starry sky, the two teenagers introduced the knives they were holding to each other, and then they confronted brazenly on the grass on the hillside. No one could believe that it was only 2.5 children who were fighting against each other at this moment. Their superb swordsmanship has far exceeded the level that normal people can possess. Every contact, every shot is a reflection of the profound background of a famous master. Zoro taught by Liu Jie, and Kuina taught by Koshiro. The children, trained by two kendo masters with completely different styles, use their own unique understanding of kendo. Facing the dream of becoming the strongest in the world, go all out and launch an unprecedented fierce duel without any scruples. Chapter 10 5 Chi Training Method. 11 200 tenths. Chapter 10 5 Chi Training Method. The next day, when the sun rose again, Lu Jie, who was sleeping, was awakened by the system prompt sounding suddenly in his mind. Ding! Congratulations to your adopted son Roronoa Zoro, who has comprehended the path of swordsmanship and his growth value has successfully broken through to the first level of 1%. Single quote. Ding! The stats panel of your adopted son Roronoa Zoro has changed. Single quote. Ding! You got a growth reward. Do you want to get it now? Single quote. Yes, listening to the long-lost system prompt sounding in the back of my mind. The corner of Lu Jie's mouth twitched slightly and then nodded without hesitation. Ding! Congratulations, you have obtained the 5 Chi body training method. With the sound of a system prompt, a golden light suddenly exploded from Lu Jie's face. Immediately afterwards it turned into a ball of light which instantly disappeared into Lu Jie's mind. With the sinking of the light spot, countless unprecedented information immediately emerged from Lu Jie's mind. The information was messy at first, but it was quickly arranged spontaneously in Lu Jie's mind, forming a detailed picture with rich pictures and text. It is the reward of the system, the practice method of the 5 Chi training method. The 5 Chi body training method was originally a method for strengthening the body in the Shenong Baikao Jing, which was later edited and adapted by Dayu and finally became a superior body training method. This body training method integrates the cultivation of the 5 Chi in the human body, namely heart Chi, liver Chi, spleen Chi, lung Chi and kidney Chi, and also contains the power of the 5 elements of alloy, wood, water, fire and earth. It can use the 5 elements of the outside world to strengthen its own 5 internal organs, thereby improving the physical strength of the practitioner from the inside out. The 5 Chi body training method has 2 levels, which are 5 Chi Lianju and 5 Chi returning to 1. First, the 5 Chi are introduced into the body to practice the 5 internal organs, and when the 5 Chi are connected into 1, the 5 Chi can be combined into 1 and the power can be obtained several times. Able. The 5 Chi correspond to the heart, liver, spleen, lung and kidney, among which the heart corresponds to the fire Chi, which can enhance the explosive power of the human body. The liver corresponds to the wood Chi, which can remove toxins from the body and greatly increase the resistance to poison. The spleen corresponds to the gold Chi, which can make the body invincible. The lungs correspond to moisture, can quickly recover from injuries. Kidneys correspond to soil, which represents amazing physical strength. After the 5 Chi are unified, the 5 abilities complement each other and the body has no weaknesses to speak of. This is the strength of the 5 Chi body training method. It is not just to simply increase the strength of the body but also to maintain the health of the body and avoid things that endanger the body due to injuries and poisoning. This is very important. One Piece King Roger died of illness and his eponymous Whitebeard was also suffering from injuries in his later years, so that Summit War could not save Ace even if he risked his life. This is a real world. People will lose their strength and even life due to various factors. It's interesting. Now that I have the 5 Chi training method, my body will no longer be a condition to restrict me. Such a murmur. Lu Jie directly calmed his mind and began to adjust his breathing according to the 5 Chi training method to forge his 5 internal organs. There is no such thing as true energy in this world. But fortunately the 5-element body training method is precisely a way to continuously temper the 5 internal organs through breathing to improve the strength of the body from the inside out and does not require special energy drive at all. The emergence of this body training method is undoubtedly of great significance to Lu Jie. Although he used to have a master-level swordsmanship comprehension but limited by his own weak body so that he had no strong theoretical realm, he was simply unable to display the strength of a master-level swordsman. Also because of this, Lu Jie's combat effectiveness is very low and he can only work as a clerk in a newspaper office. If he hadn't gained the attention of the newspaper's president and was promoted to the position of deputy editor-in-chief, he might not even have enough food and clothing. Now with the 5 Chi body training method, a body training method that can break through the shackles of the body and increase the strength of the body, Lu Jie will be able to have the confidence to run amok in the world in the future, and he will no longer have to look forward and backward. It's just that this breathing method is too painful. Feel the tearing pain when the inhaled cold air swims into the 5 internal organs. Lu Jie forcibly fixed his expression. The pain in the 5 internal organs soon caused a lot of cold sweat to flow out of Lu Jie's whole body, and the unpleasant sweat stains wrapped the toxins accumulated in the body, which were gradually excreted by Lu Jie with Lu Jie's breathing. Update instructions. Update instructions. 12 200 tenths. Update instructions. Update instructions. Guaranteed 4 updates every day. 2000 flowers plus 1 update. 1000 evaluation plus 1 update every 5 people. Tip plus 1 update. Hundreds of chapters have been saved in the past 10 days and the update is as stable as an old dog. Guaranteed 4 updates every day. 2000 flowers plus 1 update. 1000 evaluation plus 1 update every 5 people. Tip plus 1 update. Hundreds of chapters have been saved in the past 10 days and the update is as stable as an old dog. Guaranteed 4 updates every day. 2000 flowers plus 1 update. 1000 evaluation plus 1 update every 5 people. Tip plus 1 update. Hundreds of chapters have been saved in the past 10 days and the update is as stable as an old dog. Chapter 11 Goosh. 13 200 tenths. Chapter 11 Goosh. The 5 Chi body training method runs over and over again. When Lu Jie felt the tearing pain of the 5 internal organs became more and more intense, reaching the limit, Lu Jie just let out a deep breath and stopped practicing the 5 Chi body training method. For an hour after running the 5 Chi body training method 6 times, the strength of the body has increased by about 50%. Stand up and move your body. Feeling the unspeakable sense of relaxation in his body, Lu Jie couldn't help being shocked by the amazing effect of the 5 Chi body training method. Although this is due to Lu Ji's poor foundation, but just breathing for an hour can improve the body to such a level. It is simply unreasonable and amazing. It's a pity that it's too late. The body's ability to bear is limited. Lu Ji needs a certain recovery time before he can continue to practice the 5-chi body training method. Let's go wash up first. Think about it. Lu Ji glanced at the sticky sweat stains mixed with toxins on his body and said silently. Half an hour later, after washing, Lu Ji only felt that the sense of relaxation on his body became more obvious. Walking on his feet seemed to be about to float. His heavy body in the past almost lost weight at the moment. Even when cooking the huge sea beast meat in the kitchen, he felt relaxed and freehand without the usual feeling of strenuous effort at all. Lu Ji knows that this is an illusion caused by the sudden increase in body strength, and it is not something that can be done in just a few minutes to adapt to a body that has suddenly become nearly half stronger. Unusual. Lu Ji even practiced a few sword moves in the backyard according to the kendo comprehension in his mind. The result is gratifying. With his excellent kendo realm, although Lu Ji's body is still not as good as a formal swordsman who has been trained hard, it is still enough for Lu Ji to perform many kendo skills that he could not perform before. In actual combat ability, the strength that Lu Ji can display now is even comparable to that of a swordsman. And Lu Ji just practiced the 5-chi body training method for an hour. When Lu Ji's internal organs recover, Lu Ji can continue to use the 5-chi body training method to continuously improve his physical strength. It won't take long. Relying on the powerful method of the 5-chi body training method, Lu Ji's physical strength will soon increase rapidly. In turn, it can support Lu Ji to use more powerful kendo methods. At that time, even if the opponent is a great swordsman or even the supreme swordsman at the top of the pirate world, Lu Ji is also not afraid. This is the terrifying change brought about by the combination of physical strength and kendo comprehension. Without either party, Lu Ji would not be able to improve his strength so quickly. Forcibly controlled his heart that was about to boil. Lu Ji glanced at the room where Zoro was, and as expected he found that this guy was sleeping soundly, and there was a mark on his face that was scratched by a sharp weapon which hadn't healed yet. Above him, the black and red third-generation goosh was hanging on the head of the bed above his head. As if he had sensed Lu Ji's gaze, the blade of the third-generation goosh, which was supposed to be dead, was trembling slightly. Stand up. Could it be that the sword spirit is about to be born? He glanced at Goosh expressionlessly. In the world of pirates there is a special life form called elves. No matter what it is, as long as it is loved and cherished by people, elves may be born, just like Luffy's Going Merry gave birth to ship elves. Lu Ji walked up to Zoro, stretched out his hand to cover Zoro's body with the quilt kicked away by Zoro, and then waved lightly at Goosh with one hand. Wang, accompanied by a buzzing sound. The trembling third-generation ghost fell silent in an instant. It turned out to be just a simple resonance, but even so it is not something Zoro can grasp now. In order to avoid Zoro being backlashed, you should sleep for 10 years. After all, you are also a demon sword, so you have to guard against it. It was as if he was talking to himself. Lu Ji withdrew his aura of a master-level swordsman, took one last look at Goosh, who was suppressed by him, and turned to leave. Hawkeye once said that as long as it is cultivated carefully, anyone's sword can become a black sword. It proves that the quality of a knife is not static. If the user is strong enough, even an ordinary knife may transform into a famous knife. In fact, the name of the famous sword is like this. The sword itself cannot spread its name all over the world. It is not the sword that really makes the name of the famous sword resound throughout the world. It's the swordsman who uses this sword. It has been a year since third-generation Goosh followed Lu Ji. A year is neither long nor short following Lu Ji, who was a genuine kendo master, except for his lack of physical strength and being affected by Zoro's strong emotions, finally produced some changes. Chapter 12: A New Life. 14/210. Chapter 12: A New Life. As always, I came to work at the newspaper office in the town by bicycle. But on this day almost everyone in the newspaper found out that the brilliant deputy editor of the newspaper seemed to be a little absent-minded. But no one talked too much to ask anything. Lu Ji's reliability has long been deeply rooted in the hearts of the people. Fortunately, there were no major incidents on this day. The newspaper office was operating normally as before, and there was almost no place for Lu Ji to do it himself. Lu Ji, who had been sitting in a daze in the office until the end of get-off work time, suddenly got up. Without speaking to anyone, Lu Ji went directly to the newspaper president's office under the curious gazes of the people. Why? Is it because the salary is not enough? He stared in amazement at the calm Lu Ji in front of him. Holding the resignation letter submitted by Lu Ji in his hand, the newspaper president asked somewhat unacceptably. Lu Ji is a genius in journalism who was discovered by him. This guy not only has excellent writing skills but also has amazing judgment on various events happening in the world. It is often possible to peek into the hidden truth behind the incident just through some gossip, and there is no mistake. It is precisely because of Lu Ji's excellent ability that the newspaper has gradually grown from an unknown small newspaper to an audience. In just 3 years, the size of the newspaper has expanded by nearly 10 times. It won't be long before this goes on and the president will have the confidence to officially open a newspaper to the whole country and become a national newspaper leader. At that time, the hero Lu Ji will be the editor-in-chief of the newspaper. But all these wishful thinking were destroyed with this resignation letter. It's not a question of salary. Faced with the president's astonishment, Lu Ji's face didn't change a bit, but he just explained calmly, I already have a new goal. Compared with continuing to work in the newspaper office, I think I can accomplish some more important things. More important things? The president was taken aback. Yes, Lu Ji nodded. This world is so vast and wonderful, it's time for me to witness it with my own eyes. Quote. It's not an easy thing to get together. If possible, the president of the newspaper would never give up Lu Jie a sharp knife who can help him open up the press. But unfortunately, under Lu Jie's persistent gaze, the president still backed down. That is an extremely determined look. Under these gazes, the president who has the ambition to create a worldwide newspaper industry actually feels his own insignificance. Just like a bird and a swan, although the president is Lu Jie's boss, he can only look up to Lu Jie. At this time, the president already knew that even if he tried to stop him forcefully, he would not be able to stop the man in front of him. His mind has been set and no one can change it. The two finally shook hands and blessed each other. After a simple handover of work, Lu Jie left the place where he had worked for 3 full years without any regrets. This guy may not be able to accomplish any great things. He stared blankly at Lu Jie's neat figure. The president waved away the employees who gathered around out of curiosity, thinking so in his heart. On the other hand, Lu Jie, who was riding on a bicycle, is actually far less peaceful than he appears on the surface. Lu Jie didn't know whether it was right or wrong for him to leave the newspaper office Zoro or even leave this country to go to this strange but familiar world. He only knows that he has already embarked on a road that is destined to be full of twists and turns, but it is extremely exciting. In fact, he can choose a stable and peaceful life. Relying on his master-level swordsmanship comprehension and the newly obtained 5-chi body training method, Lu Jie, who stays in the peaceful place of East Blue, will not lack the power to protect himself. The high salary of ordinary people, the status is also not bad, and there is still a huge room for improvement. Going on like this, waiting for Zoro to find a virtuous woman to marry after he goes to sea, is simply the perfect life that Lu Jie dreamed of in his previous life. No matter how violent the outside world is, it has nothing to do with him. But can Lu Jie really be willing to do this? Obviously have the possibility to surpass everything in the world, but live like a hermit, wasting the talent bestowed by God. I won't be reconciled. Maybe one day Lu Jie will yearn for a peaceful life. But before that peace, Lu Jie needs a vigorous struggle. After finally coming to this world, even if he bites his teeth, Lu Jie has to bite off a piece of his own seal in this world. Chapter 13, Zoro's Growth Part 1. 15/210. Chapter 13, Zoro's Growth Part 1. Full of longing for the future, Lu Jie made up his mind and hurried back to Shimotsuki village, but stopped quietly about 50 meters away from the house. In the open space in front of the cabin, Zoro, who didn't know when he woke up, didn't slack off in his cultivation. He held a bamboo knife in each hand and slashed desperately at the straw man standing in the open space. It kept ringing, and in less than a minute hundreds of all-out attacks had been made. The rough straw man has already been beaten and riddled with holes, and even the wooden pillar supporting the straw has been punched into a big hole by Zoro. Just watching Zoro sweating quietly. A fight last night gave Zoro a huge boost. Huge changes have taken place both physically and mentally. Now Zoro is no longer just learning swords for his hobby, he has his own and another person's wishes on his shoulders. So much so that this responsibility allowed him to successfully break through the shackles between amateurs and formal swordsmen. At the age of only 8 years old, he was successfully promoted to a real swordsman. It can be clearly seen that it is different from before. The previous Zoro was simply swinging his sword with brute force. Although it looks extremely powerful on the surface, there is a void inside. There is no goal, no reason, and the sword is just used to become stronger without any strength at all. And in today's Zoro's sword there is no confusion at all. He found the meaning of learning kendo and the reason to become stronger. Although his sword slashes like before, but the power hidden in the sword is full of fiery heart. But can't escape Lu Jie's eyes. Finally, have you grown to this point? There was a slight smile of relief on the corner of his mouth. The last stone in Lu Jie's heart finally fell to the ground. He had no intention of moving on. Zoro is different from the president. As far as Lu Jie is concerned, his affection for Zoro has long surpassed that of anyone else in the world. Although he can quit his job cleanly, he may not be able to guarantee that he will spend 4 full years together day and night. In front of Zoro he can also be so decisive and not miss the ugly face. Now that you have made up your mind to break up, don't be procrastinating and adding sadness. But before leaving, Lu Jie decided to add another goal for Zoro's growth. Take back your sight. Lu Jie groped into the house, took out a pen and paper and began to write. Zoro, by the time you read this letter, I have left Shimotsuki village, left this country and headed for the sea. Above the sea there are countless strong men and challenges. That's where a man should really experience. Whether it is becoming the strongest swordsman or realizing his dream, Dai always has a choice to face. Go to sea after you become a swordsman. I will wait for you on the sea in advance. When your name is loud enough to reach my ears, it will be the time when you and I meet again. Before that, you can take Koshiro from Yixin Dojo as your teacher and let him take care of you on my behalf. Although his kendo realm is not as good as mine, it is more than enough to teach you. In addition, over the years all my savings have saved a total of 600,000 berry, which is stored in the cupboard in my bedroom. There is also a 5-chi body training method. You have to practice it frequently. It will be of great benefit to you. Quote. The writing brush turned slightly. Lu Jie took out a notebook again and wrote down all the cultivation methods of the 5-chi body training method. As for how much Zoro can comprehend, in the end it can only be resigned to fate. I wrote thousands of words eloquently. Seeing that Zoro's training was coming to an end, Lu Jie put the message letter and the notes on the table with the 5-chi training method on the table and left quietly. Chapter 14, A New Journey. Second More. 16/210. Chapter 14, A New Journey. Second More. Under the light of dusk, Strange, why hasn't Dad come back yet? The night is gradually falling. After a day of training, Zoro put down the bamboo knife in his hand and looked up in the direction of the town blankly. In the end, Zoro found the letter Liu Jie left on the table in the 5-chi body training method. The young Zoro could not understand Liu Jie's thoughts, and it was even more difficult to accept Liu Jie's leaving without saying goodbye. But as Liu Jie said before, Zoro has grown a lot now. He didn't feel abandoned, he just thought that sooner or later he would find Liu Jie and personally ask Liu Jie why Liu Jie left. A sword master. I will soon become a sword master. Hold the letter tightly in your hand. Zoro bit his lip, thinking to himself. That's it. Zoro accepted the fact that Liu Jie left without saying goodbye without too many complaints and followed Liu Jie's last entrustment. On the one hand, he worked hard to practice with the goal of being a swordsman, and on the other hand he practiced the 5-chi body training method. Although Zoro, it is difficult to understand the complex relationship between the 5 internal organs, 5-chi and 5 elements in the 5-chi body training method, but with the superhuman talent, the 5-chi body training method still brings huge benefits to Zoro. On the other side, Liu Jie has already boarded a small boat and started searching. For a moment, in Liu Jie's line of sight, a blue-purple stream of light flew towards the sky in an instant. In the end, a group of visible cursors formed in the distant sky. The position of the cursor is the location of the next orphan with extraordinary aptitude. This cursor will last for a whole month. During this month, the cursor will keep moving with the target until Liu Jie finds him. Is this distance 1,000 kilometers? I glanced at the distance of the cursor through the system. Liu Jie suppressed the complex emotions in his heart and took a last look at the island behind him for 4 years. With a wave of one hand, a sword energy shot out, instantly cutting off the ropes that bound the boat, and the boat was no longer bound. Immediately sailed to the sea. Time just began to pass. 1,000 kilometers is not a simple distance. At least the primitive boat that Liu Jie was riding on was driven entirely by wind, and the average speed could not even exceed 10 kilometers per hour. But Liu Jie doesn't feel lonely either. When Liu Jie on the boat has some free time, he will slowly run the 5-chi body training method, which can reduce the burden on the internal organs when practicing the 5-chi body training method, and can perform more 5-chi body training methods. Although the tearing pain is still as strong as ever, the body's ever-increasing sense of pleasure makes Liu Jie happy with this pain. This unspeakable feeling makes Liu Jie deeply immersed in it, and the passage of time outside is also almost nothing. The only thing that makes Liu Jie a little overwhelmed is hunger. Although he has the 5-chi body training method, Liu Jie is not a god after all. He also needs to eat to maintain his vitality. Fortunately, Liu Jie is not like many big eaters in the pirate world who cannot endure hunger. The body strength improved through the 5-chi body training method is from the inside out, and the demand for energy is not as strong as those who rely purely on muscles. The strong are big, and it is still within Liu Jie's tolerance to not eat for a few days. And when Liu Jie was enduring hunger, the cursor in front is also getting closer and closer to Liu Jie. Chapter 15, Strange Bear Belial. Third change. 17/210. Chapter 15, Strange Bear Belial. Third change. 3 days later, Liu Jie stared blankly at the inverted mountain in front of him, resolutely abandoned the already overwhelmed boat behind him, and climbed up with his bare hands. After overturning the upside-down mountain, the exhausted Liu Jie continued to move towards the direction of the cursor. Facing the vast sea, Liu Jie was lucky to get the help of Laboon the whale at the twin cape of the upside-down mountain. After Liu Jie promised that Brook was still alive, at this time Liu Jie was getting closer and closer to the place marked by the cursor. With the help of Laboon, Liu Jie successfully arrived at the town where the cursor is located, Bolivia Town. 2 seafood fried rice, thank you. After Liu Jie arrived in the town, the first thing he did was to find a restaurant. Good. Seafood fried rice, thank you for your patronage. Soon the boss brought up 2 servings of seafood fried rice. There was nothing to say. The already hungry and dizzy Liu Jie immediately started to gobble up. The image that he cared about before was no longer necessary to maintain in the face of hunger. But while eating, Liu Jie suddenly remembered that he didn't bring any money with him. When leaving, Liu Jie's mind was full of many questions about Zoro and the future direction. In order to avoid wavering in his will, Liu Jie left in a hurry. So many preparations were not sufficient. Like food and money. What to do? Can't help but slow down the speed of eating. Liu Jie, who has never had a bawang meal in his life, couldn't help but sweat on his forehead. Just when Liu Jie was thinking about apologizing sincerely first and then trying to find a way to make up the money. Bang! A gunshot suddenly sounded in the hotel. The entire tavern was filled with screams in an instant, and countless diners in the restaurant screamed without saying a word and then rushed away, and they ran away in a short time. Good chance. Although Liu Jie didn't know what happened. But now is undoubtedly a good opportunity to escape orders. As a diner, it is natural not to give money when the hotel's personal safety is not guaranteed. The Liu Jie who convinces himself in a second also wants to turn around and run away. But it seems a step too late. You, sit down. An unruly and rough voice came from behind Liu Jie. At the same time, a cold object hit the back of Liu Jie's head, and the sound of a pistol being loaded was heard along with it. Liu Jie, who was about to get up, had no choice but to sit back down again. Then he glanced at the back of his head out of the corner of his eye. This is a strong male who is about 30 years old and at least 2 meters tall. The cold touch on the back of Liu Jie's head came from an old-fashioned musket in his hand. Although this kind of thing is already too outdated in Liu Jie's eyes, in the world of pirates, a guy with a hand basically not good people. As expected, it didn't take long for Lu Jiyi's guest to rise and the pirate standing behind him immediately introduced himself impatiently. Listen up, my name is Beryl, the strange bear, who offered a bounty of 25 million berry as my uncle. Now I need enough food for 20 people for 3 months. Obediently send the food to come up, otherwise don't blame me for blowing this guy's head off. As he spoke he pushed the back of Lu Jiyi's head hard with the muzzle of the gun. Quote. Hearing this, Lu Jie couldn't help turning his head away. He looked at the guy in front of him like an idiot who claimed to be the raging bear, Belial with a